I feel very compelled to make a follow-up video as as a sequel to what I posted last week about whether I will regret not being a parent. I think we can all agree that it really takes a village to raise a child. And I think that this notion, while being very true and accurate, can also be interpreted in a couple of different ways. The most obvious way is it takes a lot of effort from the parents and the immediate family to raise a child. Everyone that I know who've been parents, particularly first time parents, would tell me that they barely get any sleep. Everything is focused on the baby, everything works around the baby's schedule, and they all have been quite fortunate to receive a lot of help from their parents and from their immediate families in order to help them get through that phase. It's incredibly difficult. In fact, two of my lady friends even have their parents living in the same household to help them with all the baby chores and help them, take care of the baby, look after the baby so that the mother or the father could get some sleep. So we know that, yes, it really does take a village to raise a child. And absent of that help from family members, the child rearing process, particularly for younger parents, would become incredibly difficult. So we can all agree with that. The second interpretation that I have here is it the village can actually go beyond the family. The village can be the environment, the environment, the neighborhood, even even the educational system. Like all of that, I think is super important in the well-being and development of a young child. And without all of that, I don't think any child would have a well-rounded upbringing. And it really makes me quite hesitant when I think about the environment we're living in at the moment. I live in Canada and in Vancouver, and we are going through a horrible period of wildfire smoke. Like it is suffocating to just be outside and breathe. My my in-laws who live in England are going through their fifth heat wave of the summer, the fifth heat wave of the summer. Can you believe that? Things are just getting so hot and burning down. I I don't feel that I'm qualified and informed enough to speak about the education system in various places, but I've had my own doubts about the current state of the educational system in the West, particularly in North America where I live. Because of things like that, I feel like the longer we are into the future, the more fragile that outside village become. And I frankly don't have a lot of faith in I don't have a lot of faith in how the society and the environment is going as a whole. And really, that's one it makes me quite hesitant to bring a child into the world. The second great idea that I want to talk about is purpose. And I think this one is very easy to is very easy for all of us to agree. That is, the purpose of having children should be 100% focus on the child and absolutely nothing else. When I think of it that way, even even the desire to have children to simply to fit in into a certain mold or to fit in with society's expectation or to appease to our parents' expectation is should be completely out of the question, because fulfilling someone else's expectations and the social norms is simply not about the child. It's a selfish need. And I'm not immune to seeing my own fault, my own fault here. If you've watched my previous video, I admit that all of the reasons that I brought up are all focused on myself. I am concerned about how my career is going. I'm concerned about whether, all of the efforts, time, and a lot of hard work that I've put into building my career and my life would be affected by me being a mother. And I completely agree that all of these reasons are somewhat centered, not somewhat, 100% centered on myself. And because I have not yet been able get out of that um, to get out of that mindset yet, I really don't think that it's a good idea or a good time for me to become a parent. The third notion that I noticed when I was scrolling through all the comments that you guys have very thoughtfully laid out for me is that of regret. I had not thought of it this way, but it is something quite unique that came up when I was actually speaking to my partner about this topic. That is, um, he said to me that to have children now or later is just is a different type of regret. You can regret now or later, but at the end of the day, a part of you will be lost, and you will forever grieve that loss, whether it's a loss of your, the best, some would say it's the best decade, the golden decade of your life between 30 and 40, that would be spent on raising a child, or it would be the later years of your life when you're 60, 70, and 80, and you're on your own. You don't have children and grandchildren to look after. It's just choosing what and when to grieve. And you have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable with that. So I thought that was a very it's to me it's a very profound and deep way to think about the matter at hand. And I think at the end of the day, um, you and me and anyone who is on this journey, we really have to look inside ourselves and decide what sort of regret and grief we are comfortable with, and live around that. And the last thing I want to discuss is the decision or feelings around being a parent is very unique and personal to the person. And however you feel about this matter is very much influenced by your background, your values, how you were brought up, or even how how your family was like when you were a child. If your parents were supportive of you, or if they were distant, so on and so forth. So there is really no one size fits all solution here. Someone might say being a parent is the best gifts that the universe could ever grant us. And that statement, while it might be true for to someone, it may not necessarily be true to another person who has gone through an incredibly challenging childhood, and upbringing and personal experience with their parents and other children in their lives. So I very much respect that, and it really it made me it I not sure what I was getting at here, and then it made me somewhat happy is not quite the right word, but I think it it made me glad. It made me glad that everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of you were willing and able to share with me in a public forum your experience, your life experience, what you've been through. And as I read through the comments, I was truly touched by the the privilege and the fortune that I have enjoyed um, in throughout my life up to this day. And I was quite pleasantly surprised at how much of a healthy debate that my video had sparked. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I truly did not expect that. And yes, this is what I have. I was very compelled to make a follow up video. Um, I definitely have not arrived at a conclusion at all, but I'm just very glad to have you guys, someone to talk to about these things and have you share your experience with me. It is very much appreciated. I didn't think that it was going to go that far. So if you're still here with me, thank you very much for thank you very much for your time and attention, and for being with me on this journey. And I hope to see you again very soon. Take care.